Welcome to the Indie Film Hustle Podcast, episode number 37. There's going to be an implosion. Mega budget movies are going to go crashing into the ground, and that's going to change the paradigm forever. Steven Spielberg.
Broadcasting from the back alley in Hollywood, it's the Indie Film Hustle Podcast, where we show you how to survive and thrive as an indie filmmaker in the jungles of the film biz. And here's your host, Alex Ferrari.
Welcome, guys. I'm your humble host, Alex Ferrari, and Happy New Year on this New Year's Eve. Head over to freefilmbook.com. That's freefilmbook.com to download your free audiobook from Audible. And today's show is sponsored by USC Film School's only online course, Directing the Actor by the legendary Nina Foch. To download that, just go to indiefilmhustle.com/USC. Today, guys, we have a special gift, if you will, as a treat for you guys. Scott McMahon from filmtrooper.com is a guest today. I wanted to bring Scott on because his focus is really helping filmmakers make a living doing, make a living and sell their movies online. He wrote a book called How to Make and Sell Your Film Online and Survive the Hollywood Implosion While Doing It. He's referring to the quote that you heard at the beginning of the show from Steven Spielberg saying that mega budget films are going to eventually crash and completely crash the entire film industry at one point or another, that certain movies are going to get so big, budgets are going to be $400, $500 million, and they're just going to bomb and knock out studios, and it's going to just completely change the paradigm of the entire industry, which very feasibly could do that, and that definitely can happen without question. But what will happen to us as independent filmmakers when that happens? So Scott wrote an entire book discussing it and showing you how he did it and how he's doing it with his film The Cube, which he made for $500 and is still selling online, and how you can do it as well. I really love what Scott's doing, and he's a good friend of mine, and we've known each other for a little while now, and he really, at the bottom of his heart, just wants to help filmmakers out by teaching them how to survive and how to make a living doing what you love to do as filmmakers, to become an uber independent filmmaker, as he likes to call it. So here's my interview with Scott McMahon from filmtrooper.com. Hey, Scott, thanks so much for coming on the Indie Film Hustle podcast and sharing some information with the tribe.
Hey, gosh, it's so cool to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, man. So I wanted to ask you, first and foremost, what is your perspective on the indie film business today? Because I know you have a very specific perspective.
Yeah, just real quick. So I have this website, as you know, Film Trooper, and it was designed to help filmmakers become entrepreneurs, or that was my quest. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it all stemmed from, there's something changing, obviously, in all the arts fields, in anybody making media. And, it was several years ago, I tried to produce a independent feature the traditional way. I had producers involved, a cast attached, brought to AFM, all the stuff that you're supposed to do, building the relationships to eventually make or sell a film. But when I was at this particular AFM, I remember there was a filmmaker, I forget his name. I think it was Mark, I forget his last name. Mm-hmm. But he essentially was saying that he used internet marketing strategies to sell his DVDs online, and it made it, a couple $100,000 or something like that. Very much like your story of, mm-hmm. Selling Broken. Mm-hmm. And at the time I was like, that's amazing. But you can see, in that world, everybody was looking at bigger numbers. What do you mean a couple $100,000? We need to make millions. That was that mindset. Right. But I was like, man, wait a minute. This is really interesting. So over the last, few years, in and out of different work, different full-time jobs, whatever, the interest never went away of how does internet marketing work? How does people building online businesses work? And how could that be applied to the independent film world? And during this time, we saw all these changes with the digital tool sets. I mean, the DSLR, when that came out, when the Canon the first mm-hmm. 5D came out, that just broke the mold. Mm-hmm. And then after that, all these little, portable digital audio recorders and the lighting gear, everything just got ridiculously accessible. I mean, it was just ridiculous. Mm-hmm. But the caveat was, in my own case study, was out of frustration of always trying to write material for the market, meaning the American film market, the international film market, mm-hmm. and they have a very specific need. All the distributors, they're like, hey, this is how we buy, or this is the type of films we buy. And they are majority of the time, they're not even what like the independent like films festival circuit, celebrates. Like when you go to the film market, it's like it's like the schlocky like action films, horror films, like everything. You're like, this is what's selling and buying. Like this is what the critics are always, or people like in frustration about the film industry is like, why is the same schlock being produced?
Because somebody's buying it, someone's consuming it. Like apparently,
on an international basis. Like and that was the key. Because obviously, like my case study was like I had an American comedy, and everybody in the international market was just looking at my stuff and says, "To be honest with you, American comedies just don't sell very well. They're very difficult to sell overseas because they're so topical and cultural based that it's the comedy doesn't necessarily translate. Which is why horror films do well, because it's a very carnal, emotional response that audiences worldwide can understand, no matter what the language is. Action is the same way. It's a visual storytelling medium that if you have a very strong genre, it sells internationally very well. Not to say that those films don't do well. Like if you're gonna make a drama, that's why you have to have a star for any international sort of interest, because that particular star can carry monetary weight. If you don't have any stars, there's really no. It's very difficult for a distribution company to make money off that. Anyhow, so I was looking at all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, for me personally, it's like you and I are as filmmakers, and people who are listening here, is the ability to take your gear and just make something, shoot something, make something, and put it up online. And we're seeing that obviously with the YouTube generation, people just making stuff and putting it up online. But comes to a point where everybody's like, well, how do I sell it? Like how do I make money off this product that I created? But that actually forced me to go deeper into like, okay, but it's just one product. Like how do you build an entire living from this? And so that's sort of why I started Film Trooper, to explore all this stuff. I'm not an expert on any of it. It's me standing out there going, I will be your crash test dummy. Like, we're both fans of Pat Flynn.
Oh yeah.
And I like his approach to internet business, which was, I have an internet business and I am doing, fairly well here and there. I share everything that I'm learning or failing at. And he shares his trials and tribulations with his audience. And I thought that'd be kind of cool. Like my focus is on making really kind of tiny films, like really, really micro budget films with the gear that you have. And then not even going to a distributor and just literally going online and selling it directly. And I'm trying to codify and curate all the best information of how that could possibly work out. So your question about where my perspective of the independent film world is, we're seeing like an overglut of supply, basic business.
Too much.
Yeah, too much supply, not enough demand. And, I think Ted Hope wrote an article or was able to identify somebody who talked about this, which is like us filmmakers, it's not just we're competing with every film that's released this year when we make our film. It's like we're competing with everything that was ever made in history.
Pretty much. And that number is growing exponentially.
Right. So not to be afraid of those things, not to feel daunted. Like it's scary because if you follow in the old paradigms, which is, we know that Hollywood is like the 1%. There's only a handful of people that get to play creatively in that world. And then there's everything that's outside of those major studios, the 6/7 major studios, is indie Hollywood, which is the film market, the international film market. And we just talked about like the genres, the very genre specific content that they're looking for. But there's like 95% of us, the rest of us, that are just making stuff and having it available online. And where do we go? And what is the business model for us? And so with that said, we had this conversation on my podcast where we got off on about like George Lucas,
Yeah, of course. Yeah. The whole thing that he kind of set the bar as far as packaging other things along with your movie.
Yeah. And honestly, that's how it's working online. So if we look at film as nothing more than like a digital product, then authors, books are no longer, and you can make a tangible paperback, hardback book, but there's an explosion of the online ebook. So that's a digital product. Music is all digital now. Like hardly anybody's buying CDs, you know?
More people are buying vinyl, I think.
Yeah, yeah, right. So there's always this outlier or like sub niche of each industry. So you're going to have people that want the hardback or paperback. They want to be in a bookstore. Like, but a lot of people are finding like it's just easier to read it on their Kindle or or Kindle app or whatever.
Just on a side note, in LA they have a store called The Last Bookstore. That's the name of it. It's downtown LA. I always drive by it, and it's in like a big neon sign, like The Last Bookstore. I'm like, that is a brilliant name for a bookstore.
Seriously, like, look, there's a whole. I think Colin Hanks did like a documentary on the fall of the Tower Records.
Yeah, I've been wanting to watch that. I saw the trailer for that. Was that good?
It looks fantastic. I haven't seen it, but what I can gather from that story, knowing we all know that story, those who live long enough, young people are like, what the hell are you talking about? What's Tower Records?
Exactly.
So anyway,
what is this blockbuster thing you're talking about?
Yeah,
Video, what?
You guys are old.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's like, you used to go to these record stores or like there's when I would grow up in San Diego, down in Encinitas and Carlsbad was Lose Records. Was famous. Like you just go and you spend hours there. And it was just, there was a fun like hunt, like discovering like, oh my God, this is like a totally used bin for like $2.99, a CD or record. So there's a joyful like sort of exploration of that. Trying to find. There's
this generation and this generation that's coming up, the millennials and anything coming forward is they will never understand what it's like to walk into a video store.
Oh yeah,
and that wonderful. I mean, don't get me wrong. Look, man, like the on-demand stuff's so much better. But there's that magic of walking into a video store, grabbing that video cassette, hunting for this, like seeing this cool cover that's promising you all of these things that never ever come true. But finding some gems sometimes of movies that really affect you that you would never find or have access to in today's Netflix-y, Amazon Prime-y kind of world. And that magic is, I think, is something that's sad that they'll never be able to experience.
It's interesting because those stores, a bookstore that was more independent, you would maybe read something, but there's somebody working there. People then start conversations. Have you read this book or heard about this? You know, then there's this social aspect of recommendation. Same thing with record stores. Correct. Oh my God, you'd be like, oh, listen to this track. Or did you hear this? You know about you might like this new band that just came out from like Ireland or whatever. It might
that's the rating system now on Netflix and Amazon.
Yeah, exactly. Even the movie store. I mean, you go into the. I remember. I think we all worked at a video store one time. I worked at like an independent video store that wasn't Blockbuster, and you just patrons that come in and they want your opinion. Some,
and we all hated Blockbuster, by the way. But
yes,
us that we worked in the indie stores hated Blockbuster. That's why I love Clerks so much, because they made reference to it. They're just like the guy. You're like, oh, he walks into, and there's just movies everywhere and copies of everything. And okay, we're getting off on a tangent.
Yeah, no. But this is all good because we understand where this world came from, which is our perspective is that that's what we thought the industry was. It's tangible goods. It's a DVD. It's a CD, it's a hardback book. Like, they're tangible. And all of a sudden things become digital. Like everything's becomes digital.
Right.
So looking at what's going on with the book publishing industry, the music publishing industry, and seeing that, you can read anywhere online. They're like, nobody's really making money selling books. Nobody's really making money selling music. They're always outliers. So everybody's going like, well, what about Beyonce? Outlier. It's an outlier.
Taylor Swift, all these things.
Exactly.
But where they make the most of their money? It's not off of sales. It's off of touring, off of merch, off of endorsement deals. That's where they make their money. The music is just basically advertising.
Thank you. And that in the books are the same way. People are just developing business structures, a business framework around it where they make their money and they're living on the back end. And the biggest case study to this, it's not just like people used to say like music, like, oh, they have to do the tour and they're making more money selling T-shirts. But reality is like, if you want the best example is Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre with Beats by Dre.
Yeah, Beats by Dre.
I mean, that's what's happened here. If you look at that parameter, it's like his music develops a core following, and then they build a product that's totally in alignment with his style. Beats by Dre, and they're selling $400 or $500 price items. They're no longer selling a $16.99 or $10.99 CD.
And because
you know?
he has them on, everybody wants to wear them. It's the it's the Nike Air Jordan phenomenon, but instead, Michael Jordan owns Nike in this scenario because that's basically Beats by Dre was owned by Dre and Jimmy Iovine.
Yeah, I forgot the guy who kind of came. I think whatever the real creator that came to Dr. Dre and say, "Let's do this together."
Yeah, and
the guy needed Dr. Dre's like street cred.
Jimmy Iovine. Yeah, well, Jimmy has a lot of street cred himself, but not as much as Dre. But yeah, and then he sold it for how many billions?
Exactly. So that is the model of all digital goods. So when we look at filmmaking, we were talking about George Lucas, that he just recently, a couple months ago, he said that all the money is in the action figures. So
it's true.
Yeah. And so what he's getting at, there's a great book by Schuler M. Moore called The Biz. It's like, he's like one of the most renowned entertainment lawyers in Hollywood. And it's a really sort of boring book about taxes, if you really want to get into it.
Okay.
But it's like nuts and bolts. Like there's no frill about the film business. It's taking from the perspective of a lawyer, an entertainment lawyer, and dealing with taxes and things like that. But in there, he says that the entire industry revolves around the exploitation of licenses. So even from his perspective, is like nobody's making films. We're not making film or TV content. We're not making that. What we're doing is the stuff we make, it has to turn into intellectual property, a property, a license that we can exploit over and over and over. So when you think about George Lucas's story, yes, he retained the rights, all the ancillary merchandise rights of the first Star Wars films. 20th Century Fox was just stupid enough to let him have it because they thought we were in the film business. We retained the licensing rights to the film. So Lucas,
to the first film only.
The first film. But the thing is, because once Lucas built this entire empire and he was able to buy back the rights, the best case scenario is like if you own the Star Wars license, what would you do with it? You do exactly what he did, which was sell it to Disney for like $4-something billion.
$4.5 billion, I think it was. It was a good deal. I think it was a straight one. It was a robbery on Disney's part. They stole it because I think they're going to make so much money.
Oh my God. Well, here's the case in point. So Disney, what happens when they got hold of that license?
Oh,
what do? We're watching it unfold in every capacity. They are exploiting that license to the nth degree.
Oh my God. Like you can't even walk anywhere now without seeing something based on the new Star Wars movie coming out.
Yeah.
And also just taking old Star Wars stuff and there was a lot of, George really did a lot of merchandising. Let's just, a lot. When you're getting down to the Tauntaun, it's a sleeping bag.
The Tauntaun?
The Tauntaun sleeping bag. And what was it?
That is so gross and funny.
It is and what was it? Oh God, there's so many. There's like the Han Solo ice cube trays, and it just goes on and on and on. So, but now I'm like seeing things that are just I can just see things that Lucas might have not let go. Disney's let it go.
Oh yeah.
So now it's anything and everything you've ever wanted in Star Wars is now available. Like anything ever. It's like whatever your mind can think of, there is a product, the Star Wars product associated with it. So it's fascinating. But you're right. We're watching it unfold right now, and then obviously everyone's saying that the new movie is going to make. It probably is going to be one of the biggest movies of all time. Just with all the anticipation. I haven't seen anticipation this large for a movie. What was the last movie that had this kind of anticipation?
Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I would say Phantom Menace. I guess you're right. Phantom Menace was a lot of anticipation for this. Yeah. I always remember the first Batman, or not the first Batman, but the Batman from 1989.
Yep.
That was just insane amount of anticipation.
That's true.
It was do you remember? Like there was Batman signals everywhere. Like you could not walk anywhere seen Batman.
I was a roadie for my friend's ska reggae band at 17. That summer.
That's a whole other story. That's a whole other story.
But I remember traveling across the country and everywhere we go, because we would eat at like the worst
T-shirts.
places.
Yeah,
but it was like, your Taco Bell sodas,
sure, of course.
Batman.
Everywhere. T-shirts everywhere. It was just, and my mother was so funny, man. She would walk by and she saw, because they would just use the bat signal. And she never saw the bat signal. She saw a mouth with teeth. And she's like, "Why is there this mouth with teeth everywhere?"
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
It is. I'm like, Mom, that's Batman. Who? I'm like, you know Batman? She's, yeah, I know who Batman is. I'm like, but that. She's like, oh, it's a bat. And like for weeks, and I was like, what's this thing with the mouth and the teeth everywhere?
Oh my God, she had the Rorschach test like reversed.
In reverse. It was hilarious. It was hilarious. So let me ask you, Scott, what do you talk a lot about the Hollywood implosion. Can you explain a little bit about that?
You know, that really comes from obviously Spielberg 2 years ago, and he and Lucas were just explaining that there could be an implosion if too many mega budget movies go crashing to the ground, because if you're putting all your eggs in one basket in terms of the types of films that are released to the theaters.
Right.
We're talking about mega budget films
like Peter Pan that just died.
Peter Pan, Fantastic Four. You'll always have these big flops, but the problem is that if the studio systems are only producing these mega budget movies, you're creating like again, all your eggs in one basket. If you don't, like before, a couple of years ago, there was diversified. They would have independent studios, a subsidiary that would make thoughtful dramas or provocative or comedies, everything they had to like sort of diversify it. So when Spielberg was mentioning that there could be an implosion or there will be an implosion, and then just recently though he was clarifying that to clarify his statement, he was saying no, I didn't say like Hollywood would implode. He's saying a lot of things. So he was trying to allude to like perhaps the comic book genre, the superhero genre could go the wayside of the Western, eventually over time.
Well, he just said that that superhero movies are going to turn into Westerns eventually, like they'll go away. Which, maybe, but like, maybe. And I think what's his name, Kevin Feige, Feige, I can't say his last name. The guy who runs Marvel. He's like. Right. Well, yeah, no, Westerns were around for about 40 or 50 years, so we're about 15, 20 years in.
Yeah.
We still got a good 30 years. We're good.
Yeah. So it's fine. It's more. It's not like the doomsday, but what I looked at it from it when the Hollywood implosion, which is simply that there could be, because we see some things where we're already seeing that there's only 6 major studios. There's Sony, Warner Brothers, 20th Century Fox, Paramount, Disney. Disney? And I'm probably missing one.
Lionsgate's maybe, Universal.
Yeah, that's kind of like that. But it's interesting. A couple of years ago, they reduced their slate of films, meaning that each studio has a number of films they're going to produce a year, and that got cut down a couple of years ago to like something like ridiculous, like 12 to 18 for each studio. That's ridiculously. Let's talk about a stopgate. But
some of them are like much like how many movies is Paramount putting out? Like what?
Exactly
6
right.
a year.
So if you're putting all your eggs in a basket on a mega budget type movies, you're anything that's to create a franchise, because they all know it. The reason why you have Transformer movies is because Paramount got that license. Like, we got to sell toys, so let's make some movies. Make some movies.
Well, actually, Hasbro said Hasbro's got to sell some toys. So they're and Paramount's like, okay, we'll help market your toys. And I've seen the behind the scenes, they have Hasbro has complete creative control of what they look like, how they work. And like, I think Michael Bay had to go back and re-render and redesign stuff because Hasbro's like, no, we can't get the toy to transform like that.
Yeah.
And stuff like it's like. This is not movies anymore. Like, this is they're just selling product.
Well, right, because like the old moguls were businessmen, but they were movie makers. They were movie producers.
Sure.
Whereas today you have Suits. They're looking at like, all right, we have this license. How are we going to exploit it? And that's sort of the MO right now. But so there could be an implosion if you have too much. And the idea behind Lucas and Spielberg saying that the theater experience could eventually go to this world of a theater or opera where you're spending $50 because it's so specialized.
It's not that far away from $50 right now.
It's not, especially with the 3D enhancement. I mean, I spent like $25 for one ticket to like see, I think, Interstellar in IMAX 3D or something like that.
Yeah, right.
But the thing is that's what they were alluding to. And then you look at what's happened is like Netflix, signs a deal with Brad Pitt to make his satire film War Machine for $30 million. And just recently, they just released their Beast movie in theaters. But the theater owners hate Netflix so much that they're boycotting anything that they're doing. And so and not only that, but they're boycotting Paramount's the last Paranormal Activity movie coming out because because Paranormal Activity, the last movie, Paramount's deciding to release it on video on demand, like I don't know, like 30 days out.
It's no, actually 17 days out.
Okay, so it's even shorter.
Yeah, because they basically so with movies like Paranormal, I just read a whole article about it. It's like with Paranormal Activity, like they make, I think it's 60 to 70% of their total revenue in the first weekend.
Yep.
Then second weekend make another 20%, and then the rest just dwindles off. So they're like, okay, yeah, 17 days after we're out. Yeah. And then we'll just and then while there's still some sort of hype around it, we'll throw it out on VOD, which is a good business model for Paramount. But the theaters owners are just getting like, pissed about it. But they can't fight it. And this is something, and I don't mean to get off topic here, but this is something. This is the one thing I can't stand, and this is one thing I've been preaching this forever. Movie theaters and movie theater owners have a combative relationship with their customer base. It's a combative relationship to walk in. Like I live in LA, so I lived in Miami for a long time, in New York, so I've seen different kind of movie theater experiences. But in LA, I walk into an AMC. I bought one of my little coupons over at AMC, not AMC, Costco. Costco sells those like little packages, like the gold ticket, right? Which meant that you can go in on first week or second week and just put the ticket down, and you've saved like $7, something like that. So you buy a bunch of them. If you go past 4 o'clock now, there's a $2 fee per ticket. It's convenience fee or some crap like that. I almost ripped the poor little 16-year-old's head off. I'm like, are you kidding me? And not only that, but then the abusive pricing of, I'm getting on my soapbox here about movie theaters, but but the abusive pricing on popcorn, like they don't, and water and soda, like we don't know. It's like airports, like we don't know what it really costs in the real world. Yeah. That plus the experience is never that great anymore with the people talking and the cell phones and the sticky floor. So it's like they're so combative with it, and they think that they hold the key to the kingdom, but they're so combative, as opposed to like a theater chain like Alamo Drafthouse, who charges for a premium experience, or ArcLight here. I'm not sure if there's an ArcLight up in Oregon or not, but the ArcLight here is there's a premium. You pay a premium for that experience, and like you were saying, that whole opera-esque vibe. But then you're becoming much more specialized, and I think movie theaters have just they're so behind the 8 ball, and they're so behind the times, and the only thing that I don't know how much longer they're going to have in the way that we see them. I think what Spielberg says is very true. I think it's going to be more IMAX-y, more things that you can't get at home. Like you can't get an IMAX experience at home. Right. If you have enough money, you can't get a theatrical experience at home. At a certain point, you can make a home theater sound and experience better than you could in a movie theater, in to a certain extent. But I at a certain point, I think it's going to be much more specialized, to the point where, how much more can they expect people to pay? Like at a certain point, like, I'm going to pay $30 to go see a rom-com? Yeah, like exactly. Like why am I? Why? Like,
audiences already they are determining, like, I'll go see that in the opening weekend. Like, because they know what they're getting into. Like you said, sticky floors, loud people, just like, but I want to see it opening weekend. But then there's enough people that says, oh, that's a rental. I'll wait for that on demand. It's like, oh yeah, there's already this mental shift that's happened. And so that's the allusion to the implosion. Like, so if things are changing so dramatically, even for the big studios, and they are no longer, like I said, the music industry is no longer selling CDs. We've seen what happened to the music industry. Like their commodity, their what they sell reduced to like 99 cents.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve Jobs.
But even still, like even movies are the same way. I go to 7-Eleven, I see like the DVDs in a bin that's like 99 cents. Yeah. But online, there's video on demand, like special, like we're getting conditioned, like I am only renting that movie if it's like $3.99 or 99 cents. Or like, there's nobody's going there goes, oh, I'm gonna totally buy that special edition package for like $100.
Well, yeah, it was like when I spent money, like I spent $25 to go and watch a movie in the theater, and then afterwards it sucked, that just pisses me off like really badly. So let's say the movie sucked, And I'm thinking, you know what? I could have bought, and this is my mindset, I could have bought the Blu-ray for $25 because I'm still old. But then by the point, like, oh, I could have just bought it on iTunes and had it, in 1080p forever. Well, as long as iTunes is around, or bought it on Blu-ray and had it at home for the same price. But because I wanted to go see it opening weekend or wanted to go see it in the theater, I think the theater, like, I don't go to the theater unless it's something, that's a theatrical experience, like Star Wars, obviously, I mean, we're going to go see Star Wars.
It's an event, and it's and that's what some of the experts in our space are talking about. Is like the independents are going to have to create this event. When you're doing a theatrical, it has to be more than just. But
it's so difficult to do that financially. Yes. You can't go after. When a movie costs $150 million and they're spending $150 to $200 to market it. There's no way the indie filmmaker is going to be able to compete at that level, but they can compete on what they can compete on is online. And then we're going to get into what your questions I'm going to ask you in a little bit in regards to audience and all that stuff. But you made a movie called The Cube. I must hear the story of The Cube. How did you make it?
Okay, so the deal was, like we were mentioning, I try to make a independent comedy the traditional way, and some things that happen that in this particular film, the quick of it is, a story I'm sure a lot of your audiences could relate to because I'm sure they've heard other stories like this. So I had this particular film as a comedy, and I created this poster. And if you can remember the universal symbol for man and woman when you go to the bathroom, it's like the little circle head. So this poster had 4 men, and below, so it was a title said 4 dudes with a plus sign, with a girl with a little flame above her head that says 1 hot girl, with another plus sign with like a swirly symbol I created. It said time portal equals do-over. If you could relive one day in high school, what would you do?
That all sounds very familiar.
Yes,
Scott.
yes. So I had I had these producers that brought it to MGM, and MGM at the time had a time travel comedy in the works, but it was described as one guy going back in time to fix 3 days of his life, and it was entitled "How Soon Is Now," based off the Smiths song. Then the economy had imploded at that time in 08, 07, and it was a lot of like uncertainty. Nobody knew where money was coming from,
Right.
So, but then I got the rude awakening at the American film market that American comedies don't sell. At that particular time, they were telling me the #1 comedy star in the world was Rowan Atkinson because of Mr. Bean and Johnny English, because he doesn't say anything. He's all physical comedy, so that translates very well, across all countries.
That's hilarious. I didn't know he was the biggest.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, because Will Ferrell, Steve Carell, those guys, their comedy was so topical and culturally referenced. It was hard, they're not as big as stars internationally as somebody like Rowan Atkinson is. And so that was eye-opening. But I was able to sort of build some relationships with some film buyers to get a better idea of like, okay, well, this is what the market's really buying. So let me go creatively and start to write things for the market, instead of like creating something on my head and trying to push it onto the market. In that process, a couple of years later, 3 years later, MGM comes out with a movie called Hot Tub Time Machine. And the kicker is the poster, because it shows like this little Red Bull plus vodka plus a squirrel equals this hot tub time machine. It had like the 4 guys, and all my friends were just calling like, "What the hell?" I go, no copyright. There was no copyright infringement because the stories are completely different. All it has to be is like somebody saw the package come to MGM's table.
Sure, of course.
And you look at it, and somewhere down the line, MGM decided to take their time travel comedy with 1 guy, turn it into 4 guys, and then subconsciously the poster is so eerily similar. So it was like,
man, I tell you, I've heard a lot of stories like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's things like I've heard people walk in and pitch. Well, it happened to me when I was doing commercial work. When I do commercial work, a lot of times these agencies will have directors, pitch out, ideas for how they want to shoot the commercial. And so many times, ideas that you spit out at those pitch meetings end up being in the final commercial when someone else directed it. I'm like, oh, that's nice. And that same thing happens in Hollywood all the time. You go and you pitch a movies like, I've got this alien who comes down, befriends a boy, and the government's after him, and that boom. All right, I'm not saying that Spielberg stole that, obviously. Not, but
Yeah.
it's called that movie is called Mac and Me, which was a complete ripoff of E.T.
Right.
By the way, anyone in the audience who wants to have a really good time on a Friday night,
Mac and Me.
find the movie Mac and Me. It is one of the most absurd things. There's a dance sequence in it, isn't there, Scott?
Oh gosh,
there was a dance sequence in a McDonald's or Burger King with this really bad alien, but this was there was a tie-in.
Mm-hmm.
This was during my video store days, so it was there was sponsorships and tie-ins, and it was this complete ripoff of it. It was like 5 years after E.T. or something like that. It was called Mac and Me, and you've got to see that. Anyway, sorry.
Here's a quick story of Mac and Me. So Paul Rudd, every time that he's on a guest on Conan O'Brien show,
he's on it, isn't he?
No. What he does is because Conan O'Brien will ask Paul Rudd, oh, so you're in this movie? Let's take a look at the clip. And so Paul Rudd always shows a clip from Mac and Me. So for all these years that he's ever been on Conan O'Brien, he's always on.
That's brilliant. I didn't know that. I'm like, was Paul Rudd in Mac and Me?
He just hazes Conan O'Brien about it.
Because was Conan in
No. It's because they were just basically saying this is how ridiculous this movie is.
Then I'm just going to bring it up every single time I'm on your show. It's so brilliant. It's one of those wonderful, wonderful 80s films that would never, ever in a million years be made today.
Who knows though? You were talking about we had a conversation about the guy who made the chicken killer.
No, that'd be Thanksgilling.
Thank you.
Thanksgilling.
Not a chicken, a turkey.
I will actually put that in the show notes. Thanksgilling to support my boys.
Yes.
The story of Thanksgilling is a story of one turkey's obsession with killing people. They basically. Just so people know what the story is real quick. We're going off topic, not on topic, but off topic. Is they made a puppet, a really bad one, which is basically a turkey head. And the turkey, the tagline for the movie is gobble, gobble, mother effer. And which is brilliant. And they knew what they were doing. I mean, this was not they were not Ed Wood. They weren't think they were making an Oscar nominated thing here. They knew exactly what they were doing. And they made this hand out of, this puppet, and the puppet goes around killing hot chicks in a college. And their big selling point was within the first second of the movie, there is boobs. So what they did is they hired a porn star, and they literally started. The first shot is on her nipple, and they just pull back. And I'm like, wow. They went all in. They went all into the camp. And just so you know, they made, I think, well over $150,000 on VOD. They got into, I think, either Warner Brothers' arm or one of those guys' arms. Got it on Comcast and those stuff, and people were eating it up. So I was actually talking to them. I was working on another film with them, an actual film, a real film. And they were like, yeah, we don't know what to do next. I'm like, well, why don't you do another Thanksgiving? No, we don't want to be the turkey dudes. And I'm like, dude, are you insane? You've made money. Make another 3 of these things. It costs you $2,000 to make. Go make some money. So what happens? A year later, I get an email. Hey, they crowdfunded, by the way. They got over $150,000.
Look at that.
To make, because they have a huge following. They had album sales. They had a lot of merchandise they sold, T-shirts, hats, buttons, stickers, everywhere. And they were selling like crazy. And I supported their Kickstarter campaign. And they sent me a copy of the movie, autographed, and stickers and buttons. And clients would walk into my suite. They're like, "What's this Thanksgiving thing?" So the third part, they made Thanksgiving 3 in search of Thanksgiving 2. So they talk about Thanksgiving 2, but they never made Thanksgiving 2. It's all about Thanksgiving 3. And of course, with a $150,000 budget, they went all out, they made this thing look insane for, considering they made the first one for I think $3,000. So that's just a great success story, and they made money with it. I don't know if there's any more Thanksgivings coming, but they created this wonderful little film and created an audience around it, which is a great segue into what it takes to actually, what does it take to be a sustainable artist today as a filmmaker? Like what do you do?
Like you said, it's an audience, and everybody, like all the experts, everything you talk about, everybody's talking about, you got to build an audience, build an audience. Well, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, no one's telling you how to do it.
Yeah, it's so you know, I think it's funny, but you look over to the YouTube stars, the superstars, they build this large subscriber base, so they have a fan base. But utilizing real like internet metrics and stuff like that, the standard is like a 1 to 3% conversion rate, meaning that even though somebody might have 1,000 subscribers or something like that, they only really have 1 to 3% of them will actually maybe buy something from that person or be a real fan. You know, obviously Twitter is that kind of way. It's like you might have a lot of followers, but it's very difficult.
Yes,
the engagement is small because the way the medium works, it's so quick to see so many things in the feed and to stand out and basically stick.
Yeah, I've noticed that too with my Twitter feed. Like I've almost over 6,000 followers at this point, and I notice what clicks and what doesn't click and what gets retweeted and what doesn't get retweeted. It's and out of so many people, the engagement is minuscule comparatively.
Yeah, so it's fine as long as it's cool, because once you know that's sort of like the rule and it kind of just works that way, then you understand why businesses are always trying to get more leads or get more impressions, because the more impressions they have, they kind of account for the standard conversion rate. Others try to like, okay, how do I maximize my conversion rate in terms of the small audience I have to make them loyal? So anybody, if you're an independent artist, musician, author, and now filmmaker, because here's the big thing. We're getting back to the Cube. The ability to make a film, like you said, a Thanksgiving for like $2,000. The film that I made the Cube for, I was watching all this stuff happen over the years of watching the industry change, and then at the same time analyzing numbers and getting a chance to get privy to some sort of realistic video on demand numbers. If you don't have a star, if you don't have a discernible genre, and you're selling your film on iTunes, most filmmakers are only earning about $1,000 to $5,000. So that's probably, that statement alone blows a lot of filmmakers' minds. They're like, no, what? And like,
and those are the successful ones.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because there's when you look even a film that has a star on it, the VOD numbers sometimes are as small as like 50,000 to maybe 100,000. But the film costs them way more than that.
Yeah. So if you're talking about $50,000 or $100,000 in VOD, this is a major studio release. This is like a $20 million to $50 million, if not higher, budget movie.
Right. Yeah. And so even in that case, so on Filmtrooper, I do offer this free video on demand and digital download report that goes into the analysis of figuring out what certain movies make, or what you can project what they're probably making on both video on demand and digital downloads. And it's probably important to make kind of separate the two, because most people think like VOD is like one thing. Majority of the numbers that we see reported in the press of like a certain film made this much on VOD, majority of that money is coming from the cable spectrum. So within cable, there's like cable video on demand, transactional transactional video on demand, movies on demand. Then there's like free on demand. There's cable subscription video on demand. So they have all these subsections. But in order to get into the space of cable video on demand, you still sort of need a formal relationship with a distributor or studio. And that leaves, like, if you're not in that world, then you're stuck to what they call EST, electronic sell-through, which is a digital downloads, which is just straight up transactions, meaning that somebody sees your film, they buy it or rent it, and the reason why films are making like $1,000 to $5,000 is that, their movie, the trailer only gets, maybe 10,000 views. So that's 10,000 marketing impressions. So 1 to 3% of that turns into a transaction. But if your transaction number is around an average of $4 price point, that's an average of like a rental, an average of a purchase, we're basically selling Starbucks coffee. We're selling $4 coffees, but we as independent filmmakers cannot compete on the volume level of Starbucks coffee. We can't compete on the volume quantity of like the Hollywood studios. And so when the independents try to fit their film into the same mold as the studio systems that are working on those high volume, transactions, will always fail. We'll never quite get there. And so the difference is, and what I've been exploring on Film Trooper, is to not play the volume game, but play the value game. So meaning that you're going to get less amount of transactions. You're going to account for only getting a couple hundred transactions, maybe a couple thousand transactions. But if you can turn that price point from that $4 price point to a $100, a $500 product like Beats by Dre, then you're making money.
Okay, so with that said, not everyone's going to be able to make Beats by Dre. So how do you change that $4 into a $50 or $100 package?
Yeah, so that's what we were exploring a lot on Film Trooper, and this harkens back to what we were talking about earlier. If we're not in the film business, we have to like stop and go, we're not in the film business. Yes, there's show business, but what really is the business? The real business is licensed exploitation. And if we utilize our films like the studio systems do as an advertisement, meaning that you can almost give it away. Instead of, you might make some money selling $4, $10 product, but essentially your mindset has to change and say, my film has to promote something of a higher value, of the $50, $100 value. And knowing that you're going to get small number of transactions. So I wrote this book. Give me 1 second. I'm going to cough.
Go for it. I've been clearing my throat the entire time, so don't worry about it.
So here we go. So I'll do the best to. We're talking about the Cube. So I was talking about being at AFM, and I was trying to write movies for this market. But this is something I think all of us can relate to. Creatively, it gets to a point where you get frustrated, where you just want to make something because it doesn't make any sense, but you just want to make it for yourself. And I already knew going into making this particular film, The Cube, that I could not spend more than $5,000, or that was my thinking. Okay. I was like, I'm going to write something and create something that I could just shoot on the weekends around my full-time job that takes place in my house. And the premise of The Cube is very simple. It's a mysterious red cube arrives at the doorstep of a married couple. It's very benign. They open it up, nothing happens, and they throw it away. And then another one comes back, and another one comes back, and each one comes back. A supernatural event happens, and it kind of spins the couple's life out of control until they figure it out. So it's really simple. And then, but I wasn't sure the thing about it was not only was it made for $500, a feature film, 90 minutes long, but I didn't really have a crew.
I would hope not. At $500.
Yeah, I didn't have it. It wasn't planned that way. I think I thought I'd maybe have a really tiny crew, like a DP. I had a DP originally, but then this is the funny thing is because I was acting in it, the original scene that we shot, my acting was so god awful right. that I had to like scrap it and go back. And then at that time, I didn't really have anybody to work on it because
this is why actors shouldn't direct.
Yeah. So I did everything wrong. I knew going into it. I didn't have a discernible genre. It wasn't a strong, like, this is a straight up thriller. This is straight up action or anything like that.
So it would sound like a supernatural thriller is what it sounds like.
That's what it's just a supernatural suspense movie. That's all I said it was. But not until afterwards. I didn't know what it was until I created it. But the fun thing was I wasn't sure if I could do it, where I could pull off making a full length feature. And by changing things up, we're just literally putting the camera on the tripod. It's a T3i, Canon Rebel T3i. I flipped over the LCD screen so I can see, where things were. I did approximate, focus on like a mic stand I put in place, and I lit the space as opposed to lighting each shot. I just made sure that the space was lit, and that way I can move faster by moving the camera around in static positions. So it became the process was very simple, which is like I'll start with wide, medium, close up, over the shoulder type stuff,
coverage,
and then coverage. So that's basic coverage, and then I just made sure that I always had a foreground shot of the cube, and then the actors, myself, and the actress in the background blurred out as my cheat in the editing to cut away from any bad acting or bad.
That would be your turtle or your pit bull from El Mariachi.
Right. Yeah. Or like the Dove Simmons or Simmons. How do you say his name?
Dove, like Dove Simmons.
Yeah, Dove Simmons.
Dove
That's
Simmons,
what I
yeah.
thought. So he's in his
Clock.
book.
Yeah.
Yeah, his book, Real the Deal, he talks about it's the cat in the windowsill.
Right. Or he always it's the clock too. In his course, he's like, just cut away to the clock.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. So, I kept it really simple. But the thing is, because I'm up here in Portland, Oregon, I was fairly new, so I didn't know the community that well. So I didn't have a community or team to put in place to make to make a proper crew. But you can just literally set your camera up and point it outside, and your production value just skyrockets. Mm-hmm. We have everywhere you look these gigantic trees, there's rivers, and for the most part, we have this natural silk or silk that's how do you say it? It's like a nice. There's no harsh shadows because it's always gray.
Right. You have cloud cover all the time, so it's a really soft light. It's nothing harsh.
So it made it easy. So I finished this film. And then I didn't know what to do with it. And the thing was, I was like, I don't know. It's not really like a festival film. I was like totally just downplaying. I was just excited I made the thing. I was like,
sure,
cool.
Of course.
But right around the same time I finished, like Vimeo on demand happens. Like all these like VHX on the horizon, Distrify, all these direct digital distribution platforms are available where you can upload it and put it behind a paywall and start selling it to the online world. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll do that. But then the bigger question arises: how do you get people to come know that you have a film? And that is why I started Film Trooper as a platform to explore these questions deeper. Because I was looking at I want to make more of these little films. I want to be able to sell them online, but I do want to make a living. And so that allowed me to explore these deeper questions of, okay, film, I realized after all this study and analysis and curation and codifying that it really is an advertisement. Just as books are an advertisement for a back-end sale, just as music is an advertisement for something that the band sells later on. Yes, the best case scenario is Beats by Dre. So the independents, it's like, if we use our film as an advertisement, what am I really selling? So my selling point, my marketing message originally for this film was, this is a $500 feature film with no crew. That was it. Because my thought pattern was, if you went to a film festival at a Q&A, the first thing somebody's going to say is, hey, what did you shoot it on? What was your budget?
Right, of course.
Like nobody cares about what your film is about. They want to know the making of, especially because that's the audience at a film festival, pretty much.
Yeah, they're all filmmakers there generally.
Yeah. So you just cut to the chase. And what I discovered is marketing to other filmmakers is difficult. It's but you did very well. Because
it's my bread and butter.
Yeah. You're did very well because you right place, right time. You built an amazing product that delivered the goods. You delivered the value to a subset audience that you knew. This is other filmmakers, learn from this stuff. And so mine was just more of it out of curiosity. I knew that was the selling point. But so from that experience, I was like, okay, I knew I did everything wrong, but how do I make it right? How do I make the next one right? Or how do I make sure that we knew there's a new trajectory for independent filmmakers, really the uber independent filmmaker? And if you are definitely not going down the path of Hollywood, if you're definitely not going down the path of getting your film bought by a distribution company, if you really want to make your film and have self-distribution, what are the new business economics or the business system around that can give you an opportunity to succeed? And so with my platform, Film Trooper, having a podcast allows me to bring guests on. It allows me to explore these questions deeper and again, sort of codify it. So in this book, it's kind of funny. I wrote a book and selling on Amazon and so on. And it was done because at one of my sessions online on my podcast, I was asking well, if a author writes a book and it becomes a digital product and they sell it on Amazon, what are the strategies are they using that are making it successful for them to sell online?
Yeah, because I gotta believe selling a book is so much harder than selling a movie online.
You think it's I guess, but
because you don't have anything visual, you don't have anything to kind of give them. You don't have a trailer. You got a cover for a book, but it's a book, so it doesn't have the same sexiness that a movie would if done right. Now, I've seen I've seen book writers do that, making it real sexy and make a trailer for it, and because to try to do. But I have to imagine selling, a narrative, or even worse, I guess it'd be easier to do a nonfiction book than it is to do a fiction book. I think, because you could just hit that core audience of what you're trying to sell.
Right. You're solving it.
You're solving a problem as opposed to trying to entertain.
Right. So in the book, so that's a good point, because so I made this movie. It doesn't solve a problem. It's more of a fascination point of like, well, what does a $500 film with no crew look like? And you know what I mean? That's pretty much it. So, but from this experiment, it's like, obviously I hedged my bets because I knew I didn't want to spend a lot of money because I knew the back end wasn't going to be
massive,
super profitable.
Sure.
But I made my money back plus more.
Okay.
So, and that's funny. That's sort of like what filmmakers think. They're like, I just need to make enough money in this film to make the next film. Like that's the mentality.
But you can't sustain a life like that. That will hold you for a few years, but if you're lucky.
Yeah, I think something to point out. We were talking about Spielberg earlier. Let's just stop and say, what is it? Why do most filmmakers that we think are successful, why aren't they taking the profits from what they made on the film prior to fund their next film?
None of them do. That's the thing. The only time Spielberg did do that with Schindler's List, he outputted the cash himself because the studio wouldn't do a black and white movie about the Holocaust. And you know what? Universal's like, we're never going to make any money with that. This is just depressing.
Yeah.
And then of course Schindler's List, made tons.
Right.
But that was the first time he'd done. And there's a handful of directors you hear do that, but they don't generally. Generally, they don't put their money where their mouth is.
Yeah.
They generally do. Now, though, I've heard stories of like, Guillermo del Toro giving up all his money for Pan's Labyrinth to continue his vision. Same thing with James Cameron and Titanic and other filmmakers. But to actually finance their next movie, I haven't heard a lot of that. George Lucas, of course, because he is the biggest independent filmmaker of all time.
Exactly. And then he had but the funny thing is that, he's probably following the motto of Walt Disney. And Walt Disney said that we don't make movies to make money. We make money to make movies.
Yeah.
And so Lucas had other infrastructure in place to generate the money, the exploitation of his property, to be able to finance all his movies. Right. So the thing is that this concept of us independent filmmakers, we have to stop thinking like the film that we make, we're just hoping to make enough money where I can make the next film. And that has to stop because even the big guys don't do it. And so but the thing is, I made a little film and I was able to make a $500 feature film, but I don't want to leave that playground yet because I'm thinking to myself, I think I could tell a better story within these confines. Because my feeling is like, we saw what happened in the app world when the iPhone app world hit. And all of a sudden, these independent programmers would just like make something ridiculous like the Fart app. They sell it for 99 cents and sell like 2 million units,
And you're
$2
good.
million.
Yeah. And you're good. Yeah.
So one day, what's going to happen is some kid is going to make a feature film or something for like $100, and they're going to make $1 million in selling directly to an audience online. And, whatever happens, and you know how it is, the industry doing shifts. Like they'll turn and go, oh, that's what I got to do. Just like, because we can harken back to a few milestones in independent film history where everybody's like, oh, that's what I got to do. I'll follow that model, Yeah,
Well, look what happened in the 70s with Easy Rider. The studios had no idea what the hell they were doing. Easy Rider shows up. Independent film which made for, I think at the time was like $200,000 or $250,000 a shot on film, and then it turns into this huge hit, and the studios are like, what?
Yeah.
And that's what opened the door to Spielberg, Scorsese, De Palma, Coppola. They just kind of gave the keys to the film school geeks.
Yeah,
they're like, oh, they must know what they're doing. Give it to them. And that's kind of what launched us. And then it happened again in the 90s with, Tarantino, Rodriguez, Spike Lee, all that new crew as well. So
exactly.
It goes in cycles.
And we're on the verge of that because we're seeing it, which we were talking about the YouTube stars, is the ability that they have curated an audience, that the audience goes where they are. And I've seen studios come in and make digital content with these stars. Basically, the studio is trying to piggyback on their success. But the funny thing is, it's like, even if the product is shit, sorry, I cussed. That's right. But
now I have to put an E on my because I'm not beeping it out. So go ahead.
So
very disappointed in you, Scott. Go ahead.
So even if it's crap, what happens is that the studios, the fan base will go with that talent, whether or not they're on a studio platform, whether they're on their own personal platform, or whatever it might be. So that's where the empowerment is coming from. All these independent artists are beginning to collect, as Seth Godin talks about, your tribe. You're accumulating your tribe. And your tribe does not have to be that big. It only has to be, as Kevin Kelly's famous blog post says, 1,000 true fans. The concept there is if you have 1,000 true fans that paid you $100 every year for your art, you would make $100,000. That is a nice middle class living,
Depends on where, and depending on where you live in the country, it could be upper middle class.
Yes, exactly. Or, lower middle class.
In LA, you're barely surviving, sir.
So then you would need 2,000, 3,000 fans.
At least.
Yeah. But you can see the metrics. The metrics are now much more tangible. Now it's not about trying to get 1 million views on your work. You're just trying to make sure you're giving value to a very specific group of people, small numbers, but of high value. So I wrote this book to be a guinea pig, to say I will write a book, put it on Amazon, see how it works, how does the selling mechanisms work and don't work. That took me down a rabbit hole. It took me way longer to write this book. And the name of the book is called How to Make and Sell Your Film Online and Survive the Hollywood Implosion While Doing It. And it's designed to go through these things about what is the plight of the uber independent filmmaker. And so we were talking about if you have a film that doesn't solve a problem, like a book that doesn't solve a problem, then how can you take that $4 product and make it a $100 product? And what are you really selling then? So I have an example in my book where I wrote, like if you're making a horror film, say you have your horror film that you sell for $4 rental, $10 download purchase, or $19, whatever it is. So that's what you're selling on the video demand side. You could do an upsell to a $100 product, which is like, hey, grab all our bonus features of our video training modules of how to properly run your own ghost hunting expedition. Not only that, but here's a list of all the equipment that we use to do a proper ghost hunting. Here's your EMF reader, your voice recorder, or all this kind of stuff where you assemble and curate and basically become an affiliate salesperson for these items. If you bundle it enough that it's worth $100, you can see a fan like, oh, check this out. Cool. I like this movie. Or I'm really, really more interested in knowing what do I need to do my own ghost hunting expedition? And they offer it for $100. Sure, boom. So now you're all of a sudden, your film is an advertisement promoting to this higher price value. Then you do another upsell to a more one-on-one experience. Can you imagine for $3,000 to come join us on a weekend expedition with the film crew, all the stars of the film, as we do a ghost hunting expedition at this famous castle this weekend, or whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. So the whole thing is now you're not the independent filmmaker, the artist doesn't feel like they're selling out because whatever you create, you were inspired by something. So you're trying to make sure that the marketing message is in alignment with the spirit of why you made the film or what your film is about. And the cool thing is you're not targeting other filmmakers. Case in point though, you were, because with Broken, it made total sense. Mm-hmm. So you had a great upsell, you had a great bundle package that totally worked great. But if you want to go down that path, then you can start targeting people that are interested in ghost hunting, and then your film is about that.
Well, did you see? Have you ever seen the documentary Food Matters? Mm-hmm. What those guys have done is amazing. They've actually turned one good documentary about food, and they've now packaged it not just they're basically a distributor at this point of other food related and health related content, and they sell courses and they sell all based around one movie. They turned that one little movie into this amazing business. Same thing with Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead.
Yeah, Joe Cross.
Joe Cross turned this entire he built this little empire off of this documentary, which is an awesome documentary, and then he just released a sequel.
So I have I had that in my book as a case study. And here's something for all filmmakers to learn that on the most basic level. So Joe Cross, he makes this film, right? Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. He's overweight, on medication, and he takes us through a journey, a 60-day juicing diet, basically.
Which works.
He does it. Cleanses. We see him transform before our very eyes, and then he shows other people that he meets along the way doing the same transformation. It's amazing. So there is such visual promotion, amplification of what he's done.
And proof of concept, yeah.
Proof of concept that makes you go, when you go to the site, the original website that he had was he promoted the Breville, the Breville.
The Breville juicer.
Juicer. That was an Australian company because he's Australian. And he's an affiliate salesperson because you would click that, it would go to his affiliate link on Amazon.
And he did a better deal than just an affiliate.
Yes, he did.
He sponsors and yeah.
But what happened was that he helped increase sales like 50%.
Oh, more than that. No,
more than that. Like the Breville Juice Company.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
So they came in and they funded his second film and they brought him as a partner. But that's like a really great case study. But what we can gather from on the most basic level is you make a film, and it's tied to a product that already exists. Just sign up for Amazon and set it yourself as an affiliate and just have that as part of your website, which is like if you're doing a ghost hunting film, package ghost hunting gear. You're not making the product. You're just using your film to promote and advertise this upsell of these products that exist. And you're not selling out at all.
No, it's funny that I don't know if I told you this on our interview when we did it on Film Trooper's podcast, but did I tell you that I signed up for Amazon's affiliate program to sell Broken?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I actually this is back in the day. They don't allow this anymore.
Yeah.
But what I did was I would sell. The only place you can buy Broken on Amazon was through me.
Mm-hmm.
So then I set up an affiliate link to my product from my website. Yeah. So then when I had people go and buy on Amazon from me, I would get a kickback on my own product.
Yeah, you have to.
But it was now they won't allow that.
Yeah.
But it was like I was making an extra $2 on each sale. It was like, oh, this is great. It was like it was insanity back in the day. But have you ever heard of a filmmaker called Isaac Nabwana?
I don't even know how to spell that.
Okay. Nabwana. Isaac is, just so you know, and I'm going to actually, if I haven't already by the time this is out, I'm actually going to do an entire piece on him. He's Uganda's first action film director.
Ooh.
And he is made a movie called Who Killed Captain Alex? Excuse me, he's made 47 movies in 2 years. His average budget's $200. And they can't be, obviously they're the campiest. He's taught himself how to make movies. He taught himself, stop clicking, Scott, clicking.
So you hear that? I'm looking it up because I'm trying to follow along with it.
No. So anyway, so anyway, he creates this, he starts his company, and the reason why I love him so much is that he has just a straight up passion. His tripod is made out of a car jack. His jib arm is made out of car parts. The machine gun is a lawnmower that he built, so it actually runs like a machine gun, like a Gatling gun.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously all community based. He lives in like a shanty town somewhere in Uganda. He's made 47 of these movies. He's huge. Huge there. He sells them. He sells out movie theaters locally. He's become this phenomenon down there. But the thing I love about him is he builds his own computer so he can edit himself. When the power goes out because there's a rainfall and the power goes out in the town, he's got battery backup so can he keep editing. He does a movie, basically about a movie a month, and with blood and action and guts and all this kind of stuff. And if you watch his stuff, he's like the Ed Wood of Africa. They're not particularly at the same level as our stuff is because obviously technically he doesn't have that training or equipment or personnel to do it. But the passion and the love that he has is in that. You can see it. It's so in there. But what's more important as a lesson is that this man figured out his market and built his tribe, literally almost.
Yeah.
And sells directly to his tribe. Now and on top of that, you were saying earlier, creating a package, he doesn't just sell DVDs. Sometimes he sells full costumes so you can play out the parts in the movie as a package deal with the DVDs.
Yes, it's fantastic.
It's a fantastic story. So I'm gonna be spotlighting him probably in about 2 weeks because I just found his story so amazing. I'm like, there has to be more people who hear about him because I don't want to hear any more whining that you can't make a movie. The man's tripod is a car jack. It's a car jack, and he's shooting it on. It looks like some sort of. It almost looks like the DVX 100A, but I don't think it's tape based. I still do think it's the next level up. But it's like, he's got his little sound guy. He's got that in there. He goes and he shoots green screen. He does all his own visual effects. I think probably through After Effects or something.
Mm-hmm.
They're not like I said, they're not particularly good, but it's just so much fun to watch someone so passionate about what they're doing. And he takes this is his business. This is his life. He owns Raymond Film Productions, which is the first Uganda action film company. And he's dealing with mafia stuff and ruthless drug dealers and gangs and all this kind of stuff. And it's just amazing. It really, really is amazing. So anyway, we went on off topic there.
Oh, no. I was just, when I was clicking around, I have to, a friend of mine, a fellow film trooper and who runs his own podcast, Jamie Francis at the Backyard Films. He's up in Canada. He did an interview with that guy in back
with
in
Isaac?
May. Yeah.
No.
So
oh my God, I got to listen to it now.
Yeah, no, Jamie's a great guy. So, but I'm excited to see his podcast grow as well. But yes, that's fantastic. Like all this stuff we're talking about is it's like getting out of the mindset of like, you're going to make something and somebody's going to discover you.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to, it's outliers. It happens. But
it's the lottery ticket, man. It's a lot. I mean, and I was talking to John Reese the other day, not to drop a name, but me and John were hanging out. No, I interviewed him for my podcast, and he did a great analogy. He goes, okay, so every year, here are the number guys, so everyone gets sobered up. This is going to sober everybody up. 50,000 feature films are made a year. Out of those 50,000 films, 15,000 get submitted into Sundance. After those 15,000 feature films this is all local American stuff, not worldwide, American. So then after that, out of those 15,000, 13 will be picked for competition. Out of those 13, 1, maybe 2 will get a distribution deal if it's lucky. And out of those, the percentage drops down to almost nothing, that those filmmakers will make any money past the initial money that they were paid. It's a sobering fact. These are all sobering facts that people can look up. So a lot of people, you have to understand, like, that's a lottery ticket. And even the lottery ticket's not the lottery ticket anymore. I've worked with multiple filmmakers who've won Oscars for short film, best short film. I've worked with filmmakers who've won Sundance, South by Southwest, Tribeca, all the big film festivals, and it doesn't guarantee anything anymore. It just doesn't. So it's not that that lottery ticket is not the lottery ticket that everyone thinks it was back in the 90s. And if we can just keep preaching that, get that out of that mindset of the filmmakers today, I think everyone will be better off. Sorry, I got off my soapbox for a second.
Oh, no. I mean, that's it. I mean, I think even those numbers are daunting, but that's because everybody's racing towards like this scarcity model that, the Sundance or film distribution companies or Hollywood has set up, because that's the breakdown of that business model, that they can only select so much. They can only, release so many films. So where do we all go if that's the case? If you build your tribe, if you build your own audience, and again, you're only looking for try 500 people that are loyal to you,
If you have 500 people that pay you $100 a year, which it breaks down to like what, $8-9 a month.
How many? Wait,
500 people. 500 people.
$500 a year.
$100 a year. That's $50,000.
$50,000. Yeah,
it's $50,000.
Yeah,
and that ends up being about $8 a month. So it's something like $8-9. Horrible math. $8-9 a month, something like that, right? Maybe less, maybe more.
Yeah,
in that general area. Well, hell. That doesn't seem that daunting all of a sudden. Like, but now you've got to figure out how to get that money from those people who really want to support you. I mean, look what Lloyd Kaufman's done over at Troma over the year. I mean, Jesus, man. That guy has made 30 years he's been doing this since the early 80s, or the 70s, I think even. And he's built up this entire little empire. I mean, he's not like rolling in it by any stretch. He might be, I don't know, but he doesn't portray himself to be that way. But he built an audience up for his specific kind of movie, the Toxic Avenger crowd, and they love him, and they buy anything he comes out with. You know, Tromeo and Juliet. He had another one, a Kabuki. What is it? Kabuki PI. You know, it's like so many wonderful titles for that. But he has his tribe, and he sells to his tribe all the time, and his tribe loves him. So that's what all filmmakers should aspire to do.
And here's the funny thing is what we're finding is filmmakers are getting to a place where you have to drill down to find out what your voice is. What do you stand for? What makes your artistic voice unique? And what happens is majority of filmmakers that are starting out, they're just interested in the craft. So when they're sharing their stuff online, it's like, hey, check out the latest clip. They're so excited to share just that they made it. And then but like if you know what I mean? Like if you stop and
they're just so excited that they made a movie. Yeah,
like,
I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it completely.
But if you stop and ask them, like, well, what does this film mean to you? What is it about? What's the bigger message? What is the theme of the movie?
But I made a movie. Is that not enough?
Exactly. And that is the cycle that a lot of us in the independent film space are finding. Case in point. So The Cube, I can, wrap this up. I don't want to go too long here because we're going too long.
Yeah, sorry.
But if the concept is our films are an advertisement because we're exploiting the license, and we want to stop selling on video on demand with the same business model that Hollywood has put forth, meaning that we're not selling a $4 product anymore because that's what it is. But we use it as an advertisement to sell something more expensive, a $100, $500 product, and we are accounting for it. We are only looking for a few transactions. We're not trying to push a lot of transactions. So, The Cube was made for so little, but I control that IP. So the thing is that I'm digging down and go, what is the theme of my movie? The theme of my movie for The Cube was letting go of fear and worry, just letting go of fear. Because it has this Buddhist theme sort of overtones to it. There's a prominent Buddhist statue that has relevance into the movie. So I was like, okay, I did just a simple Google AdWords search on letting go of fear. And it's like 250,000 searches come up per month for that search term within subcategories like depression, anxiety, or whatever it is. So what that tells me is now I have an opportunity to remarket the film to a whole new audience that are not filmmakers.
And you haven't done this yet.
I haven't done this yet. This is the analysis. Excited. Yeah, so this is an analysis of okay, the great thing about it is okay, I made my money back plus more, but how can I make more money? But utilizing this concept of I got to use my film as an advertisement to sell something at a higher price point. But the first thing I can do is I got to tap into the psyche that it's got to solve a problem of how do you let go of fear. But I use my film as sort of the stylistic context of this discussion. But then I'm probably just going to upsell it to other Buddha statues that are available on Amazon. That way I don't have to, I don't have to make it, or I don't have to manufacture it, I don't have to ship it. I just literally create a unique experience when somebody's watching the movie, and then there's some other added bonuses that lead them to a sale. Either they can watch the movie for the low price point, or if they want more, if they're connected to it, if a audience gets connected to it, perhaps they'll buy, the Buddha statue at $150, and I might make a 20% of it or whatever. Actually, it might be 8% of that.
It's all about packaging. It's all about packaging.
But the whole point, the concept is there. The idea that I can remarket it to a whole new audience, not other filmmakers, tapping into the deep emotional message, the marketing message. If you don't want to use marketing, use amplifier. People get uncomfortable, artists sometimes, my film's an advertisement? It's almost sacrilegious. It's no, don't use advertisement. Use the term amplifier. What does your film amplify? And what are the other products that you can create that totally makes sense for somebody experiencing it? Any one of us, if we're buying something in Star Wars and they upsold us to hey, get this, you can get your own, Millennium Falcon that's a big wheel, whatever, it's whatever.
I would buy that.
This is exactly okay, I'm buying that totally. If you get the bundle package,
of course.
So this is that. So this is for anybody, the filmmaker out there who is not, the documentaries have it, I'm not saying easier, but they're so targeted in their sort of specific causes sometimes.
Oh, that guest you had a few weeks ago on your podcast,
Age of Champions.
Oh,
Yeah.
that stories are amazing.
Okay, so we can sum that story up real quick.
Yeah.
So I had on my these guys are amazing. They're just two independent documentarian filmmakers. They made a film called Age of Champions. Winning Never Gets Old. It's about following a few senior citizens competing in the Senior Olympics. I think the film was only like 40 minutes long, but they went to the film festival circuit, got nothing. You know, like no distribution deal, nothing. But they discovered that the real audience, the biggest fans, were these women in their 40s that worked at a hospice care or elderly care centers. They were using the film as a advertising amplifier to inspire the senior citizens there, to show them what is possible.
Right.
So then they took that, they doubled down on that audience. They start going to conventions. And because we're talking about you need to control your license, you need to exploit their license.
And real quick, was there hospice conventions?
And not they have like a hospice,
joking.
but they have like conventions where people are showing like the latest prosthetics or
Sure,
hearing aids
of course.
or elderly
I'm just
care
joking. I'm just
or
joking.
health things. Yeah, it's just kidding.
I was just kidding. Go ahead.
So anyways, yeah, so they have because they control the license, they didn't just sell the DVDs for like $10, $20. They decided to create a licensing package bundle fee. So a organization that wanted to use their film to inspire better living, healthier lifestyle for the elderly people would license their film bundle for a price of $150 or $250. They were able to sell so many different licenses across the country. We're able to get the notice by the AARP, Advance, or the Retirement People organization. They got some underwriting from that. The long story short was they grossed over $1.3 million. Were able to keep more than half of that because their team was so small and their expenses were so small. And now they literally are making a living just doing that. Because they figured out a different like MBA style of promoting their film, because they controlled the licenses, they exploited it, and they actually offered a licensing deal. So that's why everybody's like, "What? My film's a narrative. Well, how do I do the same thing?" Well, like I said, you can figure out what product or value or something or bundle that's worth more, and use it to advertise that bundle. And once we start going to that place, we're going to see a lot of these filmmakers that are just doing it because they're going to. Sorry about the cough.
Sorry.
They're going to get to that place where they're totally on the radar. They may not be, something sexy for the press, but when the implosion happens, when an offer comes in from a distributor that says, "Oh, I like what your film is. Yeah, I'll take all rights to it. I'll give you back end money, or I'll give you a small advance of $5,000."
Yeah, no.
Use it if you own the license. Like, why would I hand over my entire license, my control to this company?
I'm selling you my movie for $5,000 because I'll never make them a dime back, generally speaking.
Pretty much. Or they're like, "Oh, so we also want your audience." Like, so that it's actually happening now in the book publishing industry. Publishers are requiring authors to have already a marketing campaign and an audience before they decide to publish their book. Musicians are the same way. They require musicians to already have a large enough following. And this AFM that's coming up in a couple weeks, there's already discussion that sales agents need to know that the director stars have a large social media following.
Insane.
So the thing is, like, a sales agent and a distribution company, they don't have any cachet. They need the people that they're going to assume all the rights to also have the audience to bring with it to make their job easier selling the film.
Amazing. Absolutely.
So it's going to get to the point where filmmakers, artists, collectively, all artists, authors, musicians, filmmakers, because that's the last thing that was so hard, is that filmmaking used to need a lot of people. It costs a lot of money just to make your art. But we're seeing the case studies. This guy in Uganda making his films. I made my film for so cheap.
It's gotten to a certain point where it's more affordable than it was before. To make a quality movie that actually makes money at a larger scale, there is certain costs that still have to happen. Even the iPhone movie in Tangerine, that one Sundance, it was made for a certain budget, so there is some money that has to be put out, but not what it, when I did my demo reel as a commercial director back in the 90s, it cost me $50,000. That same demo reel today would maybe cost me $5,000.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To shoot the same situation. So but there's still money to be put out, but drastically less.
Yes. So that's what's happening is, we are finally coming to the same level as musicians and authors, but we have the same business marketing strategies that we can learn from each other. They have been doing it for a little longer because it's hit their industry first before it's hit the independent film sector.
Right.
So I guess to sum it all up, if if people want to know more, I actually offer this free 3-part video series on the new adventures in film distribution. That's kind of fun because I take them through this like sort of cartoon adventure of where film distribution is, what we think about video on demand. Because I go more in detail about the video on demand myth and really breaking down the numbers, but then showing them there's a outlook, there's hope, and it's tangible and it's in our control and it's very exciting. But we have to change our sort of perspective on things. But once you do, you're like, oh, cool. So I'm excited because I didn't know any of this stuff, a couple of years ago when I finished The Cube and started Film Trooper. Like the last year and a half has been exploring these questions in depth and trying to come back from I guess I've gone on my little hero's journey where I came back from the inmost
You brought
cave.
the elixir. Yeah, you brought the elixir back.
I'm coming back and go, hey guys, this is what I found out. This is all the people I've interviewed. Look at these things that are happening. We can do the same thing.
I'm going through the same. I'm going through the same thing here with Indie Film Hustle in a little bit. Similar thing. So let me ask you. So before we go, because I know you're a very, very busy man. I have to bring this up only purely because I'm a huge fan. How was it working on Grimm?
Oh. So those of you who don't know, I make a part-time living up here in Portland as an actor.
Yes.
And it's not because I'm.
Can you tell them why you make it?
I'm going to tell them why.
Okay, good.
It's not because I'm a good actor. It's because there's a lot of white people up here, and and I am half Asian, so I have a very unique look, and it's what my type is, and I am considered up here the non-threatening, ambiguous ethnic.
I just wanted you to say that on my podcast. It's so amazing. You have no idea. I call him that all the time. It's just the best description of a human being ever. So I was looking at Scott's demo reel the other day, and I see Grimm, and I'm like, oh my God, that was Scott on Grimm, because Grimm shoots up in Portland. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to the new season. I'm a huge fan. So was it fun?
It was. You know what?
I'm gonna geek out now.
It is fun. So my job was a day player or a co-star, or that's the titles for it. And usually, like, they're always the characters that are just giving exposition to set up for the main characters to move the story along. That's all your job is. You're there for a couple scenes, couple lines, and you're out. And I've gone in for a couple auditions for the casting studio, and I've gone a few callbacks before, but they were always things like European thug. And so I would go in and I would do my bit as a European thug, and the director.
You're non-threatening. How can you? I know.
It's so funny because the director he'll stop and when I finish, he's like, "Oh, good job. What are you, Hawaiian?"
Exactly.
So I start laughing. I go, "There's no way I'm gonna get the job. I'm supposed to be like European. The guy thinks I'm Hawaiian."
Right. You're definitely not European, Scott. There's just not a European vibe to you.
So it's so funny. I go into the callback, and this time it's for a cop. And the dream roles up here, or the good roles to get, is on that particular show, is you're trying to get like a paramedic role or a lawyer or a cop, because in this small market, you want to have an opportunity to come back on the show because you don't get killed off. Because if you get killed off,
if you're a monster, you're done.
Yeah, you're done.
Right.
So I was like, cool, I got a cop. Maybe there's a chance I can come back. But anyhow, so I go in for the role for the cop. I do my callback, and the main casting director, she's playing the role of Nick, who's the main actor, or the main character. And she's a very petite, small woman, and she was so into character, I wasn't ready for it. And I started laughing. And I go, sorry, can we start over? I wasn't ready for the full commitment.
Right.
So I
strike one.
Exactly. I flubbed my lines, and I was like, I left. I go, oh my God, what a total failure. But I got a call. It's like, you got booked. I was like, oh, I started just laughing. Because you understand, my family, when we moved up here to Portland, the full-time job I had, I could tell it was on the verge of like folding apart. So I was like, I should start figuring out maybe some other employment options. And I was like, I'm going to dust off my reel and resume or whatever in my headshot and see if I can get any acting work up here. And my wife's like, what? Like, I hadn't done acting since I was in my 20s.
she's like, I didn't marry an actor.
Exactly. She's like, who the hell? What? Like who?
We have a family, sir.
Exactly.
Get serious.
So she was like, whatever. And like, we were already watching Grimm, and we knew it was shot in Portland.
Right.
And so, like, this is like the third season. When I said, I just got cast in Grimm, and she's like, what? So it was so surreal because being a fan of the show for like 2 years.
Oh, no. Yeah. And then you jump on. Yeah.
Then you're on set. And the scene comes in where Juliet and Nick come in, and they're totally in character. And they walk in and they're looking right at you in character, and they're delivering the lines. And I had like a split second to go, oh my God, wait, don't. Okay, I'm not like I'm acting. I have to act. You know?
Right. Right.
But it was pretty fun. I mean, you know what? The experience was everything that you hope it to be. And
cool.
From that perspective, I can say that the acting is got to be the best job in all disciplines. In my feelings.
When you're working,
because yes, when you're working, because when you're on set, they took, it was everything you hope to be. They gave you like, here's your little trailer, and there's a PA that comes over. Hey, Mr. McMahon, can I get you a breakfast burrito? I'm like, oh, yeah, sure. You know, it's like everybody's
this
taking
is why
care
people
of
get so spoiled in this business.
Oh my, so spoiled. I was like in the makeup chair, and everybody's talking. And I'm like, this is funny. You get driven to a separate like van with the main cast to the location, and then you do your rehearsal, and you're just sitting around forever, just
waiting for them to get to you. All right.
Yeah, and then here's the funny thing, because I'm a day player. I know that my job is to deliver the lines for exposition, like I said. The initial shot, the master shot, was they did a steady cam over behind me, so it was over my shoulder, looking at the main actors to get the main coverage.
Sure.
And I was supposed to be protecting a hospital wing for some sick boy that could be possessed, could not be possessed, or whatever.
Right.
And I was thinking to myself, I only got 2 lines.
Oh, no.
This may actually be it. This may be the only shot they ever use.
Oh, no.
And it's the back of my head.
Uh-huh.
So I purposely, like halfway through my line, I turned towards the camera. And I deliver the lines.
Freaking actors. Just stand where you are.
but lo and behold, they never said, cut, what the hell are you doing?
No.
They went ahead and did a close up over the shoulder, so I had to.
Which is on your
nobody
reel.
said anything, so I had to repeat the same motion over and over. But the only reason, if you see this clip, is that I turned into the hospital wing was because that was me trying to get coverage on the master shots.
So you have something for your reel.
Yeah, exactly. Believe me, I've seen shows where I could totally tell the poor day player didn't even figure this out, and they delivered all their lines in the back of their head, never saw their face.
So that's like, a free tip for all the actors listening. If you ever get on as a day player, make sure they see your face, but in a non-intrusive way, because as a director, if an actor did that to me, I would lose my collective crap. I'd be like, dude, seriously? I'll get your close-up. Just sit there. I promise, all right? Jesus.
Yeah, you don't know. So.
You don't know, so you gotta. Hey, this is my shot. I gotta take it. No, yeah, I don't fault you for it by any stretch. So last 2 questions, sir. This was the toughest one of them all. I'm sure you know what they are. But this question is, what is your top 3 films of all time?
Well, I know this question, but I'm gonna throw you some side ones there. Okay. I'm gonna say Somewhere in Time.
Okay. Wow, Christopher Reeve. Okay.
Yeah, like whoa.
All right.
That particular film.
No, it makes perfect sense for you, sir. Don't. It makes absolute sense. Go ahead. Time traveling love story. I mean, I got it.
Yes. I'm gonna throw that out there.
Okay. Who was the girl in that? Please remind me right now.
Oh, Jane Seymour.
Jane Seymour. Thank you. When she was like Jane Seymour. Yeah.
I'm gonna say Rudy.
Also makes perfect sense.
And not to say they're my top 3, but I can guarantee that when these films come on, I stop and watch them.
Sure, of
and
course.
Rudy, I always cry.
No, of course, everyone cries at Rudy. I mean, you're a savage. You're a heartless bastard if you don't cry at Rudy. I mean, seriously, that movie's so good. It's such a it's amazing, and it wasn't like a huge box office hit or anything. But people, when they watch it, they're like, he's a psychotic. I mean, seriously,
yeah.
The guy really had issues, to do what he did. Rudy, if you're listening out there, man, seriously,
Rudy
Rudiger, my friend. I know he's like a dentist or a doctor or something at this point, but
amazing.
But seriously. But wow, what he just kept going. Go ahead.
I know, so it's like that. And oh man, there was a third one I really wanted to throw out there. It was just odd, but I will. I'm gonna go with Amadeus.
Okay, another great one. That's actually been on the show a few times.
Okay, because those three films in particular, I remember as a young person watching Amadeus, not knowing anything about the film, and because I was so young, I thought like every film had to be like Star Wars.
Right.
So when I saw this film, that was so, just the storytelling I was engrossed by this. I was like, that's when I realized film could be more. Somewhere in Time was special to me because it's like a love story. I'm only watching this because of Superman. You know?
Right.
Little did I know that I would fully just become enveloped with this story. And then Rudy was just touching because I always cry at the end. I don't know.
No, it's just like there's certain movies like that. You know.
So there you go. There's three that I was trying to throw out that was different. You know.
Not bad. They're all good. They're all good. Amadeus is one of those movies like I watched it probably the exact same time you watched it when we were young. And I watched it during my high school years. So during the high school years, Jean-Claude Van Damme was the greatest actor of all time. I'm sure you can relate. Bloodsport obviously is the greatest film ever made. And all his other, I can literally list off his filmography up to a certain year, awesome. for back in the day. So for me to watch a movie like, Amadeus, I was like, and get into Amadeus and like understand, like, wow, like if you can go from Bloodsport to being like the hardcore lover of Bloodsport and Hard to Kill, Steven Seagal, also another great thespian of his time, to go to Amadeus and for that the same mind to like both. It says a lot about Amadeus, especially at the time frame of my life when I watched it. It's an amazing film. And I haven't seen that movie in probably about 15 or 20 years. I have to actually go back and watch it again. So Scott, where can people find you?
You know what? Just go to filmtrooper.com, like Stormtrooper, but just filmtrooper.com.
Trademark infringement.
Thank you. And then literally there's only really one thing to do there. You sign up for the free 3-part video series and it's just fun. You get a chance to take this new journey through the adventures of film distribution. And that's it. I also, part of like joining up on the Film Trooper email list, you get a weekly free video on demand and digital download report, to help you kind of gauge your business plan if you needed to know what's going on in that world, as well as a bunch of other free goodies. And I'm almost at my 100th episode of my podcast, so it's a milestone coming up.
Yeah, nice. Congratulations. I'm the rookie still, sir. I'm still trying to catch up to you, sir.
But you are crushing it, and it's so cool to meet you in these circumstances this way. So it's awesome.
Oh, thank you. Now, if anybody needs a non-threatening Asian, please look him up. He's amazing. His work on Grimm was stellar. Why the Emmys did not look at him at this. It's just a travesty, sir. A travesty.
Oh my God, it's so funny.
Scott, thank you again, man, for coming on board, man. A pleasure. Absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Man, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Scott's a great guy, man. I love having him on the show. He's doing some really great work over at filmtrooper.com. And you can get all of the links to Scott and his book and everything at indiefilmhustle.com/037 at the show notes. So also, guys, don't forget to head over to filmmakingpodcast.com and leave us an honest review of the show. It would really help us out a lot. So have a safe and happy new year to all of you guys. I wish you guys nothing but the best in the coming new year, and that you all get your movies made. All of them get out there, and you can start making a living and surviving and thriving by being an artist and by being a filmmaker in the coming year and for many years to come. So keep that dream alive, keep that hustle going, and I'll talk to you guys next year.
Thanks for listening to the Indie Film Hustle podcast at indiefilmhustle.com. That's INDIEFILMHUSTLE.com.